Hello.
I am a 16-year-old who lived a lifetime inside a dream. AMA. This occurred not last night, but the night before. I didn't really think to share it at all yesterday, but was thinking back on it in the shower this morning and thought you guys could find it interesting. Fire away, smiley face. P.S. I am in school, so it may take a while to reply until I get to study hall and lunch in a couple of hours, sorry. How did it feel when you woke up? Did you die inside the dream? It took me a second to realize what happened when I woke up, and I legit just lied in my bed for a minute or two thinking back on the dream with the words "what the fuck" just hanging in the back of my mind. I believe that the ending of the dream was my death. It ended with me sitting in the grass by the curb with my wife and daughter. I asked my wife how old I was, she told me 91. I looked down the street and saw all of the orange leaves on the ground and empty trees and started to tear up, thinking that my life was really about to end. I looked into the sunset, then I closed my eyes and woke up. When I think back to that moment and relive it in my head, I can still feel that feeling of knowing that death was approaching, knowing that I would possibly never see my wife or daughter or anybody who I knew again. I get choked up knowing that it's only a dream until it inevitably happens one day. Explain. Did you go through school again in your dream? That sounds like a nightmare. Do you do this often? It would seem like a given when it comes to dreaming something like it, but strangely those givens that would normally happen in life didn't occur. The dream started from when I graduated, and kind of skipped through a few days at a time. It has happened once before, but nowhere near as detailed, and it was only over the course of maybe a week. But in that dream, I still recognized that I had a different life, but kind of like I forgot who I was in that life. Do you miss your wife and your daughter? I absolutely felt that feeling of something being empty or missing when I first woke up, and it is still lingering in the back of my head. After having about a day and a half to think about it, it's more curiosity about certain parts of that life and what some events might mean. But to answer your question, yes. I absolutely miss them. This is like that Roy game in that episode of Rick and Morty, right? Was it really detailed or just moments in succession? I actually thought about the Roy game right before I read this comment, lol. There were a few moments that were incredibly detailed and realistic, but for the most part it was many moments in succession that were ordered chronologically to maintain continuity. It would skip by weeks at a time. I mostly only experienced major moments in life by myself as well as interactions with other people. So basically you played Roy. Did you go back to the carpet store after beating cancer? Strangely, most of the given kind of things like work and school just didn't exist in that life, like I skipped over those parts of days. This happened to me on a very strong LSD trip. I was someone else, living somewhere else. I had an entire different life, a different identity, and it wasn't just for the 8-hour trip, it was for years. When I came down, it took me a while to realize who I really was, and that the life I lived in the trip wasn't real. There was a period of several days where I was still doubting whether my real life was the real one, or whether the one in the trip was my real life. It was actually quite terrifying. I couldn't imagine the feeling of knowing what is real and what isn't even after coming down. I absolutely believe you when you say it was terrifying. Yeah, what do you mean by lived an entire life? Did you die Oswell? I lived through a whole different life from the one I am actually living. The dream began from my high school graduation, and ended with what I believe to be my death. What seemed like the key moments of my life were much more detailed, and I experienced them like they were real. The more boring, insignificant days would slip by hours at a time between simple interactions, like talking to my parents or friends, and these days would skip by weeks at a time. Did you get married? If yes, was your partner hot? Yes, I did get married. Yes, I found them very cute. Smiley face. Why would he download the fat ugly bitch DLC in his dream? Do you remember the whole dream? Ever thought of writing it down? It might mean something. There are some parts of it that are kind of fuzzy, mostly the more unimportant things like short conversations and such. The major events are still extremely vivid, and I am still really curious as to what a lot of things could possibly mean. Like what kind of major events happen? What kind of technology was in the future? To name a few, I remember being falsely accused of a crime in my late teens/early 20s, my wedding, the birth of my daughter, and the final scene that I talked about in a few other responses. Technology remained the same. Everything that was considered modern or obsolete today was considered the same for the entirety of that life.
Goodbye.